Plans for this massive overhaul have been in the works for nearly 5 years. If you see behind me, Penny Esser with DHS is down there in the black. She has a panel of speakers for tonight, foster parents themselves. Look up nanny cam videos on the internet and it's frightening. This is where Acremont killed Michelle Abdul and Roxanne Ellis in Medford, December 4th, 1995. They owned a property management company and this was one of their duplexes. Acremont lured the women here one by one and shot them execution style in this garage. Just like Hawthorne Park, some say the Bear Creek Greenway is another example of where the community has sunk millions of dollars into a project that people are leery to use. Good afternoon, and thanks for joining us. I'm Libby Dowsett. The man accused of killing an Ashland native and a military veteran on the Portland Light Rail will now face charges in a Multnomah County courtroom. Meanwhile, people here in our region are remembering a young life lost. It is our top story today at noon. Portland's mayor says he's calling for the cancellation of some alt-right events scheduled for Portland next month, and one of the victims' mothers agrees. Ted Wheeler, the mayor, confirmed Portland will not issue permits for two upcoming alt-right events on the 4th of July and July 10th, and he's asking the federal government to back him up. The mayor says he believes the groups plan to spread hate, just like Jeremy Christian, and the mayor says it's something we don't need right now after the attacks on 3 brave men.
They were willing to give it all, and 2 of them did. They gave their lives, and a third lies.
The mayor also said he hopes to work with the families in the future to create a permanent memorial, possibly at the Hollywood Transit Center, to honor the 2 men who died. The FBI is deciding if Jeremy Christian can be charged with hate crimes. Witnesses say Christian hurled anti-Muslim insults at 2 girls on the MAX train Friday before those attacks. One of the young women was wearing a Muslim hijab. Portland police characterized Christian's remarks as hate speech, but a retired FBI agent says hate crime charges added on top of criminal charges can be tough to prove.
You can't make a...
Of course, one of the victims who died was a former Ashland student. His mother sent a letter to President Trump asking for him to condemn acts of violence that result from hate speech and hate groups. This past weekend, a vigil at Libby Park for Talishin, who gave up his own life to protect others. Friends and family are calling their friend Tally a hero. They say he was an adventurous person, a Reed graduate, and the type of person to stand up for others.
He was...
The third man stabbed, 21-year-old college student Micah Fletcher, has been released from the hospital with a severe neck wound. An autopsy is planned to determine the official cause of death for a Medford woman who was swept away in the Illinois River. News 10's Trish Gloss has more on where rescue crews recovered her body.
For nearly 2
And that was Trish Gloss reporting. The sheriff's office says with this year's storms, our rivers are especially cold and moving faster than normal. They recommend swimmers wear a life jacket and check water conditions before heading out into the river. A swimmer rescued last night after being stranded at Turtle Lane Park. Rural Metro Fire says the swimmer was unable to move after having swum across the river. It was suspected cold water and fatigue may have played a role, but the swimmer did not report any injuries. Crews escorted him back to shore safely. A break in the hot weather for us, but it won't last long. News 10's Autumn Robertson is here with your weather headlines today. Hi, Autumn. And you can track the forecast for your town at ktvl.com. Just click on weather. Get out your mowers. You have 2 days to get your high grasses cut. A Medford City ordinance takes effect June 1st. The fire department says with the warmer weather, fields, hillsides, and vacant lots are starting to dry out and create a significant fire risk. Property owners who don't mow their dry grasses face a fine and the cost of the city doing it for you. It's been 20 years in the making, a community center for Jacksonville. Tomorrow, a groundbreaking for the project. Volunteers will host the event at 10 a.m. at 4th and Main Streets. The public is welcome. The community center will offer the town a new meeting place for community events. A security incident reported at an Air Force base in San Antonio. Joint Base San Antonio Laughlin was locked down in certain areas this morning. Twitter posts told personnel to stay inside during the quote security incident. People were instructed to avoid the area near Stewart Street and Arnold Hall. More on this story as it comes in. President Trump is on the verge of making significant changes to his communications team. His communications director just tendered his resignation. Now the president is expected to shake up the team as the White House faces an onslaught of stories about the Russia investigations. Meantime, the president's son-in-law and senior advisor, Jared Kushner, is now the focus of an investigation into possible collusion between Mr. Trump's associates and Moscow. Police have released new details about Tiger Woods' DUI arrest. One of golf's all-time greats was pulled over early Monday morning not far from his home in Jupiter, Florida, and jailed for several hours. He later issued an apology. Don Champion has the latest details. Woods was in jail for about 4 hours before he was released. His arraignment is scheduled for July 5th. Still to come on News 10 at noon, more research backs up the assertion chocolate is good for you. But there are some exceptions. You knew there were. Find out what they are in your health report. Plus, this cute little kitten is up for adoption. Find out why she had to be taken from her mother. Good afternoon. I'm Libby Dowsett. All 8 officers injured in a melee at Pelican State Prison in Crescent City are now out of the hospital. We are told 7 prisoners with gunshot wounds are now in stable condition. It is our top story today at noon. The public information officer at the prison tells News 10 all prisoners are being kept locked up without activities. This all started yesterday morning with a fight between 2 prisoners, which grew into a melee involving large groups of prisoners and staff. We're told officers used chemical agents and batons to try to subdue the prisoners, but that didn't work, so they used live ammunition, shooting 7 of those they say were involved in the fight. Lieutenant Jessica Berg tells us officers and inmates all had non-life-threatening injuries, but this was one scary day at the prison.
Worst case scenario.
Lieutenant Berg says staff has received a lot of support from around the state, and it will take a while for the investigation to unfold and the prisoners to get back to their normal routines. We are following this story today. Get the latest information on our website, ktvl.com. A new picture shows what missing boy Kyron Horman may look like today. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children released the age-progressed photo of Kyron, who has been missing for nearly 7 years. Kyron was last seen June 4th, 2010, when his stepmother, Terry Horman, took him to a science fair at his school. He was 7 years old at the time. His mother from Medford and his father believe the stepmother knows information about Kyron's whereabouts, but at this point, Terry Horman has not been named a suspect. Horman spoke with People magazine 2 years ago, saying she toured Kyron's classmates' projects and then said goodbye to the boy. Later that afternoon, she recalls Kyron was not on the school bus. She says she called the school and they told her he wasn't there. Desiree Young, Kyron's mother, is speaking today in Salem to mark National Missing Children's Day. More on this tonight on News 10. The largest Goodwill store in Southern Oregon is now open in Grants Pass. Doors opened at the new location on Northeast Beacon Drive at 9 this morning. After a ribbon-cutting ceremony at 8:45, the store has 13,000 square feet of shopping space, more parking, and an easier drop-off area compared to its former space. The store will be open 7 days a week. Proceeds help pay for job training and other employment programs. A ribbon cutting for a new outdoor fitness center at Hawthorne Park this morning. The Parks and Recreation Department in Medford is calling it Hawthorne Park RX Zone. Not far from the new water park, it has 10 state-of-the-art outdoor fitness machines. The money for the project came from All Care and the Oregon Community Foundation. Local businesses chipped in to build it. More complaints of trash piling up at Alba Park. Medford Parks and Recreation worker Brian Johnson says Alba Park has become the most troublesome area for trash in the city. He says despite the multiple trash cans at the park, trash always ends up on the grass. He believes this is because of the growing number of homeless people who are gathering there, but the homeless disagree. Harper says he tries to do the cleanup once in the morning and once at night. If you plan to travel this weekend, prepare to pay more at the gas pump. AAA says the national average for regular unleaded went up by 2 cents, meaning U.S. drivers will pay the highest Memorial Day gas prices since 2015. If you are traveling, be aware of other cars on the road. AAA expects 39 million Americans to travel over the holiday weekend. The Klamath County Sheriff's Office and others around the state will have more officers on the road to look for problem drivers. They will be targeting people driving under the influence. An Oregon Department of Transportation grant is helping pay for those extra officers. Weather-wise, it is looking nice. News 10 meteorologist Randy Burns tells us what lies ahead for your holiday. Thank you, Randy. Track the forecast for your town at ktvl.com. Just click on weather. Some vineyard and wineries in southern Oregon are giving marijuana growing a try. The grape growers say they want to increase their appeal among young consumers and cash in on the recreational marijuana boom. Vineyards are also leasing acreage to private pot growers. There's one hitch. Since marijuana is still illegal at the federal level, wineries must keep separate tax lots for wine and weed or risk losing their federal license to bottle and sell wine. As many people head out for some camping this weekend, the Jacksonville Post of the Veterans of Foreign Affairs is making sure our veterans get some relaxing time out in the woods. News 10's Megan Allison shows us how you can help in this special program to help wounded veterans. The VFW says 90% of fundraising goes back to services for veterans like camping at Divide. Breaking news this afternoon, a federal appeals court has upheld an injunction against President Trump's travel ban. The ban would include people from 6 Muslim-majority countries. The ruling upholds a lower court's decision to halt core portions of the executive order indefinitely. The new ban was announced in March, but never got off the ground because federal courts blocked it just hours before it was set to go into effect. Montana voters are headed to the polls to vote in a special election where the Republican candidate has just been charged with misdemeanor assault. The billionaire businessman is accused of body slamming a reporter last night. Meg Oliver reports there's an audio recording of the incident. At least 3 Montana newspapers have withdrawn their endorsements of Gianforte. He and Democrat Rob Quist are competing for the state's only U.S. House seat. New research shows the Zika virus was likely circulating in the Americas months before the first cases were detected. New research from MIT and Harvard scientists suggests Zika was spreading in Brazil in February of 2014, 1 year before the first infections were reported. In your consumer connection, the size of your car may determine your chances of being in a fatal car crash. Danielle Nottingham has more on a new report on safety. This nighttime snacking, we've been told not to do it, but now a change of opinion when it comes to snacking to help get quality sleep. That story coming up. Family members who lost loved ones to Robert Ackerman aren't complaining that he's still being kept on death row, even though his penalty was reduced to life in prison in Oregon. But they are devastated that 20 years later, justice has not been served.
While talking to police,
Robert Ackerman has received more than his fair share of attention. 2 TV crime shows feature his murderous spree. His first victim, Scott George, in Northern California. In 1995, George agreed to show Ackerman around town. Ackerman told police he killed George that night just to see what it was like.
Drove with my left hand and just pulled it back, popped him right in the back of the head.
Did you see him?
The second time I shot him, I was pissed. Threw up all over my car.
Scott's sister and father now have had to lean on each other as they await the execution they're not sure will ever happen. Ackerman's opening brief in the appeals process in California was just filed this March.
It's been 20 years and they're just now starting the appeals process in California. That makes me sick. Absolutely sick.
Where does he even have the right for appeal? You know, when you take a life like the way he did. I just don't understand it. I don't understand it. I think the laws need to be changed.
Shortly after George's murder, this is where Ackerman killed Michelle Abdul and Roxanne Ellis in Medford, December 4th, 1995. They owned a property management company, and this was one of their duplexes. Ackermont lured the women here one by one and shot them execution style in this garage. Ackermont said it was a robbery gone wrong. Prosecutors knew it was a case that would rock Medford.
You know, it's the stranger that comes into town and kills people. You don't know who he is, you don't know where he came from, you don't know if he's going to strike again.
2 decades later, there are still questions to be answered.
The prison is saying because he has a death sentence pending in California, that's why we keep him on death row here in Oregon. The bigger question in my mind is why he wasn't transferred to California years ago once his Oregon case was concluded, and I really don't know the reason for that.
Does it help at all knowing that he wasn't let off death row?
This person doesn't need to be able to eat. This person doesn't need to be able to talk to anybody. He should be in the ground, period.
Abdul and Ellis's relatives have mixed feelings about the death penalty, but all family members will tell you the pain of their loss does not go away.
You know, I think about good times that Scott and all of us had together, and then there's other times that you just, I can't hardly take it, you know. As time goes along, it eases a little bit, but I do know that, and I know in my heart that someday we'll be together again.
Prison officials tell us Ackermont is allowed out of his cell for about an hour and a half each day. Death row inmates can have TVs and radios and purchase items from the prison store. They can also apply for work opportunities within their unit. With your connection in Medford, Libby Dowsett, News 10. Plans for this massive overhaul have been in the works for nearly 5 years. The City Council has approved the master plan. The public's had a chance to make comments, but still questions remain. Will this be the key to get people to come back to Hawthorne Park?
Give him an underdoggy.
Most people agree Hawthorne Park is beautiful. Big trees, lush grass. But when we asked some preschool moms to bring along their children for a day in the park, it took some convincing.
I just feel uneasy. I just feel like it's not a really controlled environment, and anything can happen anytime.
Another mom, Liz Burke, refused to bring her children even though she grew up at this park.
It was normal. There wasn't a bunch of homeless people. People weren't murdered in the park. You weren't scared. You could walk around. Used to come swim here all the time. Now it's totally different.
The city has big plans. The general layout has a new play area located near the corner of East Jackson and Hawthorne with a spray pad for the kids. Expanded parking nearby, basketball and futsal courts, a skate park near the Greenway, and a large dog park near the back parking lot off Main Street. That's where construction begins.
There's just going to be more of, I would say, today's recreational amenities in the park, which will hopefully bring the residents back.
Parks and Recreation Director Brian Shotun envisions a park like you see in bigger cities, with artists, musicians, and special events. But still plenty of space for park users like Caden Malo to fix his bike and ride the trails.
I think it'd be great, yeah. I come more often.
Anytime you improve facilities, it makes it better for the community, and a community that has great parks is a great place to live.
But some say in this case, it's a waste of money.
No matter how much money they put into this park, it's not going to change the location of the park, and it's not going to change the surroundings.
Just like Hawthorne Park, some say the Bear Creek Greenway is another example of where the community has sunk millions of dollars into a project that people are leery to use.
When I was a kid, I rode my bike down it all the time, me and my brothers. No problem. Now that would never happen.
Well, I heard there was a lot of like drug use in the area and homeless people, and which we're okay with if my husband is here, but alone I don't think I'll come here now.
Families should feel safe about going to their parks, using the greenways, but they got to use them. They can't run from them.
Shotun says the plans include clearing out blackberry bushes where transients hide and sleep and improving lighting. Police are also stepping up patrols, but say there's only so much they can do.
There's no rule about being in a park. I mean, anybody could be in a park. It's open to the public.
And that's just why these moms say they won't be back.
They need to take that money and do something about the homeless problem and the drug problem in Medford. And until that problem is taken care of, it doesn't matter what's here. I would never bring my kids here.
No one could tell us when construction will begin on the dog park, sometime in the coming weeks, but city officials say they won't be closing off the whole park, only sections at a time. There is also space reserved in the plan for an aquatic center, should the city pursue that in the future. To check out the master plan for yourself, we have a link at ktvl.com. Covering your news, Libby Dowsett, News 10. Many people have a special connection to their car, whether it's a fancy sports car or a beat-up pickup. These keys can mean so much more than just a way to turn on your engine. The drivers we meet today are in the different stages of hanging up their keys. Number 26, Eric Leader from Jacksonville, had to wait until his 70s to get his big shot at being a race car driver.
Most of the time when you go into the turns, you're going sideways, you're sliding through the corners.
His wife Jerry told him no for years, but finally she changed her mind.
I figured that's the only thing he ever asked that he really wanted to do was race, and I thought, well, it's about time that I kind of give in a little bit to him.
But Eric's midget car racing career was short.
So this is what we call my man cave.
Just 5 years in, he gave it all up.
And I thought, we've got a pretty good life going, and I could really mess it up by getting hurt.
Fast forward 45 years, and here again, Eric is forced to make the difficult decision to give up driving altogether. His doctor diagnosed him with Alzheimer's disease. Then he suffered a small stroke.
And that made it a little easier to think that not driving now might be a good thing for me.
This one-time NBC cameraman who worked with the biggest stars in Hollywood now has a new set of wheels.
If I can't be at my best and I go out there and if I happen to hit somebody or kill somebody, I never forgive myself.
Don D'Alessandro of Medford feels the same. He just bought this fixer-upper in Medford to be closer to family as he struggles with macular degeneration.
I recognized the fact that I couldn't see oncoming vehicles very well, and I thought, well, that's it, you know.
His doctor agreed, so Don handed over the keys of his beloved pickup to his son Tim.
There's no feeling sorry for yourself. It's a very, hey, we're just gonna figure this out.
Don says as long as his eyes are bad, he'll be riding the bus, maybe even catching a ride to the mountain for some ski patrolling.
In our culture, driving has become a right rather than a privilege.
Do not enter an intersection.
AARP driving instructors say many older drivers have problems yielding right away, making left turns, changing lanes, using freeway ramps, and making it through busy intersections. In driver safety classes, they emphasize preparing for these situations.
Just being more confident. That's why we take these classes, so you don't have this hesitancy as much.
Beatrice Bloyd of Medford is trying to decide whether to give up her car. She agrees to take us on a ride near Horton Plaza, where she moved to be closer to town.
When I'm driving short distances, this is the one thing I make myself concentrate. Intersections are scary when you're trying to make a turn, if you're making a left turn, and I try and work it out so I never make left turns.
Avoiding hazards on the road hasn't always worked for her.
2 accidents in 2 months is too much.
So she told her daughter it's probably time.
I think I can be successful with this because it is my choice. It's not being imposed on me.
See that? 88-year-old Aline Bessonette says she drives just fine.
Kids everywhere. Yes, indeed.
Aline takes road trips to the coast in Northern California.
It's just an independence kind of thing. You like to be able to go when you want to go.
She admits she doesn't drive at night or in rush hour, and so far her family hasn't said anything.
They just leave me alone on it. I don't know how long that's going to last, but anyway, that's the way it is.
So as long as there are no bumps in the road, Aline says she'll be driving until the DMV tells her otherwise.
I just go when I need to go.
Aline's license is up for renewal in 2022. In Oregon, drivers 50 and older are required to have a vision test every 8 years. In California, it's a vision and written test every 5 years. There is a free driver evaluation test on AAA's website. We have a link on ktvl.com.
They were dropping mortars in almost daily. It was daily.
David Cherney finds himself right in the middle of the action, serving as a military policeman in Tikrit, Saddam's hometown, still swarming with Ba'ath Party fighters. It's not long before David's convoy takes a hit.
It slammed me against my vehicle, and I don't remember if I went unconscious or not.
David survives with a traumatic brain injury, but the damage to his head is far from over. Seeing one of his comrades near death traumatizes David for life.
You know, they got him in the stretcher, and they're running him right past me, you know, into the hospital, and you know, the blood's just sloshing around in the cot.
You can understand why his wife Mihaela is worried about him. David suffers from severe PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder.
The whole family is involved, and all of us suffer. Sometimes we suffer more than him.
My job is to drink the mandarin juice.
Due to his injuries, David can't work. He can't help much around the house with their 3 kids. It all falls on Mihaela.
It's a miracle we're still together.
Right now I'm at my point where it's too much for me right now.
Give me a kiss. Next time, okay, Papa?
Even the kids feel the pain.
Well, when he's in a bad mood, he's like wants to be alone, and when he's in a good mood, he's like playful. And
He was mean and he was nice.
I don't want to do it. I don't make myself do it. It just does it.
David says dealing with the outside world is even more difficult. While driving, he can't help but watch for attackers.
I will not go through an underpass unless I can go from there all the way through. I look at the support pillars for obstructions and people walking over, and jeez.
And a trip to the grocery store is like a minefield.
My brain is just firing, you know, looking at everything.
Right now, it feels like you need to protect your family in a grocery store.
Yeah. And, you know, like I said, you know, no one's going to jump from behind the onions with an AK.
But an older couple passing by has David on alert.
The threat level for her would probably be like 2 or 3, you know, but she's still on the scale.
I see for myself how exhausting it can be. A trip down the hall to the restroom is like a military exercise.
I can still see what's in front of me, and right when I step here, I can either detect movement or not.
I can't help but wonder what can be done. The same question Mihaela asks herself every day.
I'm pushing myself for more and more and more, and I hope that everything is going to get better one day.
Hoping for a day this family won't have to worry about what's around the next corner. A few plates of paint and a fresh piece of paper. Can't wipe away the severe abuse most of these girls have experienced, but as we found out, it can help. A little.
We're going to try to tell the world that words have power.
Before the paint came out, CAC Executive Director Marlena Misch asked all of us to share some of the negative messages we received as children.
You are a slut. Okay.
Like, you don't belong here. I wish I never gave birth to you. You're ugly.
And I want to acknowledge that, Serena. That took a lot of courage to say, for someone to say you ruined my life.
Some friends weren't really friends. They'd call me ugly.
My mother called me a slut when I was a virgin too.
I heard a lot of, you can't do anything right.
People told us we can't do anything right. Not going to amount to anything.
Marissa says her father told her to forget her dreams of becoming a singer.
And to hear from her father that she has no talent and she'll never make anything of herself, and that she can't have that dream, that message is destroying her. I want you to mean it too.
Whisper was called a liar.
And that kind of annoys me because it's not the truth.
She acts strong, but the hurt is right there under the surface. So we grab our brushes and put all those dark feelings down on paper.
I've just kind of blanked my face out you know, like I don't even exist.
I feel like I'm not good enough to do it at all, and it just like hurts.
I'm not fat. I've lost weight. I'm trying to lose weight because I don't like my weight. I'm not ugly. I try hard every day to look nice because I don't want people calling me names.
All of us, when we scraped away those layers in this honest forum, that we still had the scars of messages that we received as children.
And now, fighting back against all those words, the Girls Mentoring Group working together on a new public service campaign to help others watch what they say.
Whore and slut, those words will affect someone. Some people may not realize that what they're saying does hurt.
Every once in a while it just pops in my head, you know, it's just, it hurts, you know, it's like it's never gonna go away.
Because just like a picture in your mind, words can't always be torn up and thrown away.